Delighted then to welcome Charbel onto the podcast, someone who I've collaborated with for a number of years now. Regularly message, but I am genuinely excited because this is the first sort of real-time conversation we've had, and what a great time to be speaking. But yeah, welcome Charbel again. For people who don't know, Charbel runs a fantastic site called CricBlog. Lots of world cricket news, views, but do check it out. But yeah, welcome, Charbel.
Thanks, Tawhid. Yeah, it has been a few years already since we've been collaborating. It's been good fun and happy to talk. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it, and looking forward to the series.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's get straight into it then. So Australia v Bangladesh. Bangladesh are touring Australia. First time in a couple of decades, 23 years to be precise. They've just ended day one of the warm-up game there against the CA11. So it's quite a good time to be talking, I suppose. We can certainly touch on that. So yeah, 2 tests, first one in Darwin next week, and then Cairns for the second test.
I guess Mackay. It's Mackay for the second test.
Mackay.
Close enough. Yeah.
My bad. I was thinking about Cairns because, as I was saying off air, I've actually visited both Darwin and Cairns. But
beautiful part of the world, absolutely. Yeah,
it is for sure. So yeah, maybe a good place to start then is just going back to a week or so ago before Bangladesh flew out to Australia. There were a couple of press conferences before they departed, and just wanted to focus on a couple of comments, I suppose, that the captain Najmul Hussain Shantu made, which I thought were interesting, kind of slash a little bit odd as well, maybe. So basically, 2 things he said. One, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here a little bit. Firstly, he sort of said that Bangladesh were lucky to be touring Australia, and I guess the sentiment behind it was that Bangladesh hadn't performed consistently well over 20 years or so. Hence, they were kind of fortunate to be touring. And then the other thing that he said, again, which I thought was kind of interesting, he was looking at the Australia squad, and he said how, looking at that squad, he was quite pleased because it meant, because there were so many, big name players in the squad, it meant that Australia were taking Bangladesh seriously, and that was, a sign of Bangladesh's progress. I thought both comments slightly strange, but let's hear your view on it, Charles.
I think the first I could understand, because I think I said that group that he's got is the lucky one to come here after 23 years. It shouldn't take 23 years for a team to come to Australia, so that's the disappointing aspect. But the fact that so many seasoned and established players from Bangladesh cricket never got to play a test here, Shakib, Tamim, Mahmudullah, these guys, they never got to play here. So the fact that this group gets the opportunity to tour here and play test cricket in the country is probably, I think, what he means by that. And hopefully it's not 23 years until the Tigers come back again, because I think Bangladesh have got some fantastic fast bowlers. Shame we won't see Nahid Rana, which we'll talk about soon. The second one, I'm like you. I found that a bit strange. I think Australia have picked the squad because there's so much test cricket coming up, and this group, or Australia, haven't played a test match since January. So it's about getting miles in the legs, getting the match fitness up, getting test cricket under their belt for what's to come. So, you wouldn't want the fast bowlers who, particularly Hazelwood and Cummins, they played 1 test match between them in the last 12 months. You wouldn't want them going to South Africa, for example, with no test cricket under their belt for the best part of a year. So these matches against Bangladesh is a good opportunity for a number of players for Australia to find some form. There's a few batsmen that need form as well for Australia. So this is a big series for Australia in terms of hitting their strides.
For sure, yeah, I'd agree with that. I think yeah, my take on it, yeah, agree with you. And I guess giving Shunter a bit of leeway, sort of having been present at lots of press conferences, you know, it can get lost in translation a little bit in terms of
Yeah.
of what he's trying to say. And yeah, I suppose why I was kind of interested in the, we're lucky to sort of be touring take is that, yeah, it shows a little bit of a sort of a deferential kind of streak within Bangladesh cricket. I feel if they were really, confident and, had a slightly different way of thinking, he could have easily said, well, it's ridiculous that it's taken 23 years. We should have been here, years and years ago, but he didn't sort of say that exactly. And then, yeah, the other sort of comment in terms of looking at the Aussie squad, I thought was interesting because really the normal kind of answer that sort of teams have for that or players is that, well, we're just concentrating on our own squad, our own 11, whoever the opposition pick is neither here nor there. But yeah, he didn't choose to go down that road. But yes, an interesting kind of couple of comments, certainly to kind of get the ball rolling.
That's been, I do remember, it's about 10 or 12 years ago now, Mushfiqur Rahim said something quite similar. India picked a sort of a weakened squad to tour Bangladesh for an ODI series. It was the series where I think it was Stuart Binney took 6 wickets for about 3 or 4 runs. Do you remember that series?
It's going back a bit, but yeah.
It's going back a bit. He took 6, and then they defended about 100 runs against Bangladesh. And it was that series where he mentioned India disrespected Bangladesh by not picking a strong squad. They ended up losing the series, Bangladesh. But it just reminds me of that, that focus on maybe the opposition a little bit too much than maybe their own cricket.
Indeed. Well, let's kind of zoom in then on Bangladesh's squad and their own tactics and, how things might prevail. So, yeah, the Bangladesh squad, I'm not going to go through all of it, but I guess, the big kind of headline is the absence of Nahid Rana for injury. And as you were saying up front there, Charbel, someone who you were really looking forward to kind of seeing, and I think we all were, in terms of how he might go out on Aussie surfaces. But yeah, unfortunately, he's injured, so he's not going to be there. But I think, for me, the big question is, in his absence, can the Bangladesh seamers kind of produce? Because we know the Bangladesh seamers, pacers have been on an upward trajectory for the last year or two. But yeah, what's your view on that?
Yeah, disappointed Nahid Rana's not here. Big fan of his. I've been quite vocal on Twitter, or X as it's called now, about Nahid Rana coming to Australia as he's doing the business in the subcontinent, generating pace off any surface, really. And even a few years ago when he sort of first burst onto the scene, he was an excitement machine then and so hard to deal with. And it would have been a great battle between he and the Aussie batting lineup. But I think for Bangladesh, the fast bowlers have got a huge role to play. It's about the long game. So to beat Australia here, you've got to play the long game. You've got to be patient. You've got to work over the opposition batting lineup. Taskin Ahmed's going to have a big role to play. He's the experienced guy. He's a quality bowler, Taskin. So he's got to lead the way. And Ebadot Hussain is another one I look at. He's had success sort of down under in the past in that New Zealand tour of 4 or 5 years ago. So they've got to lead the way. And Mehdi Hassan, who's made a great start to the tour with 100 today, he's got to hold up an end. He's got a crucial role to play with the ball because I think spin will play a factor, especially in Darwin. We saw Corey Rockacholi, the off-spinner, take 6 wickets today. There was turn out there. So you've got to work as a unit, Bangladesh, and stay on task as long as possible. That's going to be the biggest challenge for them, I think. With both bat and ball, it's fighting it out and playing the long game against Australia.
Absolutely. And, I think you picked up on a point that I was going to make, and it sounds a bit counterintuitive, where we're talking about the improvement the Bangladesh pacers have made. But I think, as you say, spin's going to play a huge part in the series. I mean, even thinking back to the Ashes, England didn't pick a frontline spinner, did they? And lots of people, even during the Ashes and certainly afterwards, were saying that was a huge mistake on England.
Well, to be honest, Australia didn't either in the last 2 Test matches, and including Sydney, which I thought was a weird call, even though we won the game. But yeah, spin has not played a factor in Australia for a few years now, but I think it will in this series. You're right.
For sure. And I mean, I think, again, you mentioned Mehdi Miraz, and yeah, absolutely, his all-round game
his quality
will be very important. But I think Taijul Islam is going to have a
good call.
huge role to play because, I mean, if you look at the stats, he is Bangladesh's best bowler, full stop. Best spinner for sure. And then, he's taken more wickets than any other bowler over the last 3 years. I was looking this up earlier. I think
Nicely done your research.
I have. Well, yes, AI is brilliant, isn't it? He's taken.
Right.
He's taken 90 odd wickets over the last 3 years. And the thing why I think he is so important and why I like him so much, he's such a versatile bowler as well. So watched him lots of times out in Bangladesh where in test matches he will bowl within that first hour, the first morning. So he can bowl with a new ball within the first 10, 15 overs if needed. I'm not saying that's going to be the requirement out there. But he can do that. He can hold up an end. He can bowl long spells. And he also takes wickets. As I said, he's taken the most wickets out of any Bangladesh bowler in the last few years. So I think his role will be pivotal, and obviously the way that he goes.
Yeah, you're right, because his big strength, you touched on it there, is his ability to bowl long spells and hit the right line and length time after time. So if there's any assistance in the wickets, he's going to be very, very handy because of his consistency. He doesn't leave sort of middle and off stump to the right-hander, just outside the left-hander's off stump there as well. So, yeah, you're right. He's going to be very important. The 2 spinners are going to be key. Maybe Australia have gone 1 spinner light because we only picked Nathan Lyon in our squad. So that'll be interesting, sort of how that works out.
Sure, absolutely. So I guess just zooming in on sort of Bangladesh team composition, the way that I expect them to go is with 6 batters, and then obviously you've got the all-rounder there with Mehdi Miraz, and then the 4 bowlers. So I'd expect 3 pacers and the spin of Taijul. And yeah, in terms of those 3 pacers, I think we've certainly mentioned a couple of them. Tuskin, I'd expect, leading the attack. And then Hassan Mahmood, who, again, big fan of his. I think you are as well. He offers something slightly different to Tuskin, a bit more control, perhaps even a bit more skill in terms of taking the ball away from the right-hander. So, yeah, expect him to start. And then I guess the 3rd pacer, could well be a toss-up between Ebadot and Khalid Ahmed there. That's kind of how I expect the bowling to look. Just switching focus to the batting then. And I think, Bangladesh are really going to be really dependent on that sort of middle order, the veterans, if you like, in that middle order. So starting from number 3, you've got Mamun ul Haq, and then the captain, Shantu, likely to come in at number 4. And then obviously Mushfiqur Rahim at 5. Liton Das is an interesting one because I'd expect him to come in at 6. He hasn't played today, or he's not in the squad for the warm-up match, but I'd expect, it'll be interesting. It'll be a bit of a gamble because he is coming back from injury, hasn't played.
I think Bangladesh have to play him regardless. Yeah, he's one of your best players. So, yeah, I think the bigger gamble is leaving him out, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think he's got to play.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree. And as you were saying at the start, good that Mehdi Miraz running into a bit of batting form with that unbeaten century earlier on. Although, why don't we touch on the warm-up games? Because I'm thinking again back to the Ashes and Lilac Hill and how much you can actually read into warm-up matches, warm-up games. in terms of conditions, in terms of the players that you're coming up against. So just looking down the Aussie lineup in this game. So again, you know a lot more about this team than I do, but yeah, Sam Constas up top, certainly,
Yeah.
and then Josh Felipe as well. But other than that, a lot of names, I guess, who are kind of more familiar on the first class scene.
Yeah, Campbell Kellaway is a player that people have got huge raps on. Still early in his career, so disappointing that Constas and Kellaway were out so early today. There was an opportunity for those guys to get some runs under their belt, but hopefully in the second innings they get a chance. Josh Phillippe's played for Australia a few times across the white ball formats. Curtis Patterson's played a couple of test matches against Sri Lanka. He has a test average of 144 still. He's been in great form the last sort of year or so in Sheffield Shield cricket, so he could be primed for a big score in this game. Teague Wiley's an interesting one. He's named to come in next. He made a great start to his Sheffield Shield career a few years ago, but he's lost his Western Australian contract now, so he's fallen off a bit. But he's only 22, and he said that Rahul Dravid was his hero growing up. So that's an interesting story about Teague Wiley and a player to watch. And Jack Clayton, a left-hander from Queensland, he's also a very solid player in the middle order. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys go. In the batting department, because for Australia we need some batters coming through the system for the next couple of years, because everyone bar Cameron Green is above 30 in the test side, and similar applies to the fast bowlers. So yeah, we need guys stepping up in state cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we switch then to looking at that exact point you were making in terms of the Australia squad and the likely 11 for the test. Actually, before we do, I just want to touch on Rockacholi. You spoke about him right at the start there, taking that 6 for today. Confess, haven't seen any footage of the warm-up game. Is it being streamed?
Yeah, so on the cricket.com.au website, they had some highlights in their match report, but I didn't see any live stream today. Might have a look tomorrow and see if it's on a different platform. But yeah, couldn't see anything live today. Just following some commentary.
Good stuff. Yeah, let me know if you can find live. I'd be interested to have a look. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. Rockacholi, an off spinner taking 6 for against Bangladesh. I've always had a bit of a suspicion that Bangladesh batters aren't the best actually against good quality spin.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I thought it was quite interesting just in terms of conditions that the pitch there that they're playing the warm-up game on, which we know is going to be a different venue to the test match, but the fact that it's presumably taking a bit of spin.
Yes, and Rockacholi after the day said he was happy that the ball spun quite early. He did take 3 wickets before lunch, and just looking at his wickets, he did get the ball to spin and dip a little bit. So, and you saw the Bangladeshis, which they can't do against Nathan Lyon. They were sort of not to the pitch of the ball and trying to drive. That's dangerous when you're up against a spinner who can get the ball to drop and spin. If you're not to the pitch of the ball, you're in big trouble. So that's something Bangladesh have got to get right, because they've got to be good against the spin in this series if they're going to be any chance. But Corey Rockacholi is an interesting one because he's sort of down the pecking order among Australian spinners. So you've got Nathan Lyon, but they've preferred Todd Murphy, to play Test cricket, and Matt Kuhneman, the left-arm spinner. So Rockacholi is probably like 4th choice. But I think he's got a strong case to be Nathan Lyon's replacement when Lyon eventually retires, because he's got similar attributes. He's 6'3". He bowls over the top, gets that overspin. So he can be very suited to Australian conditions, get that bounce. And he's got a great Sheffield Shield record over the last few years. And he plays for Western Australia out at the Wacker. Not a spin-friendly venue by any means, but he still holds up an end and can get some wickets. He's a terrific cricketer. So I'm really happy to see him do well.
Well, yeah, he's certainly done his chances no harm at all in that performance today.
For sure.
But yeah, let's go back then to the Australia squad overall. I mean, you were touching on it there. Lots of familiar names, I suppose, in the squad. And as you were saying, they've got a huge kind of 12 months or so coming up, lots of big series against India, South Africa away as well, and obviously the Ashes next summer here in the UK. So yeah, was this perhaps an opportunity missed in terms of allowing some other younger players, perhaps, or players with less experience to come through?
Potentially, I think more so for me, maybe in the batting department. They've stuck with Labuschagne. Maybe it was an opportunity to try a player who I'm a big fan of is Nathan McSweeney at number 3 or 4. He's a player that is very technically sound. He did open for Australia against India a few years ago, but he had to face Jasprit Bumrah at his peak. So maybe that was a chance. They've opted with Jake Weatherald as well to stay at the top, so he's got a score. So I'd say Weatherald, Labuschagne, and Cameron Green I'd add in there as well. They've got a massive series ahead of them because they need runs. They need runs desperately with what's to come. In the bowling department, it's a bit trickier because, you know, Cummins and Hazelwood are still good performers, right? When Hazelwood's playing, he's still an outstanding performer. He's up there with the best averages in the last few years among all bowlers around the world. But he's got injury problems, and Pat Cummins has got injury problems too. But the selectors see these two as crucial for Australia in the next 12 months. So you need them playing now because you need them getting the bowling in their legs in Test cricket. So this is the opportunity to do that. I think if this series was maybe at the end of a cycle where we had South Africa, India, and England, and then we had Bangladesh, you may have been maybe in a different story where you got new guys coming in then. But because the Bangladesh series is the start of the cycle, you need guys with miles in the legs and match and being match fit, really. So that's how I look at it.
Absolutely. And, you know, you look at some of the names in that squad, and maybe I'm echoing a little bit what Najmul Hussain Shanta was saying a week or so ago. I mean, you know, you were saying there that the likes of Cummins and Hazelwood, they're still pretty good. Well, I'd say they're probably a few notches above pretty good. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. So and Andrew McDonald was on record last week of saying, you know, we picked teams to win and the players are still performing brilliantly. Like we saw Mitch Starc in the Ashes. What is he, 36 now? And he's still performing brilliantly. Nathan Lyon's the big one as well. He's had a serious hamstring injury in the Ashes. It'll be his first Test match back. So it'll be fascinating to see how he goes as well. But he's another one who needs that sort of match fitness. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they all go and how they all go moving forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, yeah, looking at maybe the batting there, obviously you've had Usman Khawaja retire from cricket in the last few months, well, during the Ashes, which kind of opens up a spot there at the top. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I look at that squad, I don't see too many weak links in terms of too many areas for Bangladesh to try to exploit, really.
Yeah, there's a few players there. I would disagree. I think Bangladesh need to have the mindset that there's a few guys there almost playing for their positions. Sort of Jake Weatherald didn't have a great Ashes, so he needs runs. Marnus Labuschagne has not scored a Test century for 3 years. He needs runs. Cameron Green, he's sort of, you know, I think he's got a great potential and a very high ceiling still, but he's been short of form for a while now as well. So there's a few guys there sort of, you know, looking over their shoulder a little bit, maybe potentially worrying about their position in the team. That's where Bangladesh needs to pounce. And also Travis Head is opening the batting. He hasn't done that for very long. He's only done that for a few Test matches, albeit very well in the Ashes. But Bangladesh need to have a very strong plan to him. Do not bowl width to Travis Head. Keep it tight, in around middle and off stump. Similar with Marnus Labuschagne in the channel, because when Labuschagne gets stuck, I feel he starts to panic a little bit. So this is where I think Bangladesh's planning has got to come to the fore, because Australia's batting does have a bit of a shaky element to it. So Bangladesh needs to have a really positive attitude.
Indeed, yeah. And I'm hoping that they've watched, I'm sure they have been watching lots of those Ashes highlights with Travis Head smacking the ball to all parts against the England bowlers.
England fed him too much width. They were short and wide to him, remarkably. and he feasted on it, and that's what Bangladesh have to avoid. Got to keep it tight.
Absolutely. So let's maybe round things off then. As you were saying, there potentially, there might be some areas of weakness within the batting there for Australia. But I suppose for Bangladesh really to cause an upset, I mean, so many things have to go right. And I was thinking about this the other day in terms of what would success look like for Bangladesh on this tour. And I honestly think, you might say that I'm glass half empty, and maybe I am a lot of time, having watched a lot of Bangladesh. But I think, for me, even if they lose 2-0, but they put up a decent fight, both tests maybe go to a fifth day.
Yeah.
And, they haven't lost by huge margins, I would say that that's pretty good progress.
Yeah, I'd say so too. If you can put a competitive showing and take both games into the fifth day and make Australia work hard for their victories, that's a good sign. But yeah, if you can snag a draw at least, that'd be a pretty good. That'd be a strong pass mark for Bangladesh in this series, particularly with no Nahid Rana. He's the real X factor that you're missing. But I also worry about Bangladesh's top order. I think you're going to need runs from your top order. You don't want to put too much pressure on the middle. That's a concern for me. We speak about key players, and Mominul Haq is one of them. I've got to look at the stats, but from memory, his away record is quite inferior compared to his home record. But I will have to double check that. But I'm sure his numbers are much better at home. So he's got to put that right in this series. He's one of the senior guys along with Mushfiqur, but got to make sure that middle order is not exposed too quickly. So yeah, make Australia work hard, and you take the matches to the fifth day. Maybe a very good achievement for Bangladesh.
Yeah, indeed. I think it'll be fascinating kind of what happens at the toss. If Bangladesh win the toss, I'd like to see them back, because that's what you should really be doing as a visiting team, trying to lay down a marker. But as you say, we haven't mentioned it before, but I think, both opening spots for Bangladesh are decidedly dodgy, shall we say. Shadman Islam and Tanzid Hassan, I really like him. I really like his approach. Certainly in the white ball game, he's only just starting his kind of test match journey, his test career, so that hasn't translated. But neither of those openers to me really sort of speak to a solid start. I'd like to be proven wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Tanzid has shown some good signs over the last few years, but you need a good start. And that's not going to be easy, of course, against Hazelwood, Cummins, even Scott Boland, who we haven't talked about. Scott Boland could get a game in this series, and I think there's a chance he probably will. He's outstanding, and then Cummins as well. So going to have their work cut out, Bangladesh, but it's about belief. I think it starts with a strong mindset, and being willing to fight it out there.
Absolutely. And I guess the last point to finish off with, like I was saying earlier, it's taken them so long, 23 years, to play this test. And rightly or wrongly, if they do lose by an innings in both tests, and, they're both over within 3 days, like the Ashes, then for me, I'm sure there'll be a predictable kind of backlash in terms of, they clearly weren't good enough to play, etc., etc. But for me, it sends out, it's the wrong kind of narrative, really, because
agree.
Going back to the point at the start, it doesn't matter how good you are or what your performances have been. Really, you're a full member. ICC full member nation, you should be playing regular test cricket against everyone else. We know it's not a perfect world. We know for many, many reasons that's not the case. Also I think it must be pretty exhausting, or it feels exhausting to me, to always sort of constantly justify your presence as a team. And
of course.
And again, I don't think that's something that should be put on the players' shoulders at all. But yeah, that's the world we live in, I suppose.
It is, unfortunately. Yeah, I'd like to see a world where we have a number of strong nations around the world in cricket. That's a dream. I don't know if it'll ever be reality. And we get a sort of an even distribution of matches between teams around the globe. That's
Absolutely.
probably, yeah. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but it is what it is, unfortunately. But I hope this series is competitive for the reasons that you said, because that would be a great sort of thing for Test cricket. The West Indies won a Test match here a couple of years ago. It's a great story. That the underdog can come here and do something, and we've seen Bangladesh produce some really good wins over the last decade against, including Australia at home in Dhaka. So, if we can get these sort of teams punching above their weight, it's just great for the game. It's a great story.
For sure. Let's hope that happens. Let's finish off there then on a positive point of that. Love that utopian vision of everyone playing everyone.
I wish.
Equal number of games across, I don't know, a 3 or a 4 year cycle. How brilliant would that be for Test cricket?
That would be a good World Test Championship cycle, I'd say. That'd be great.
That would be brilliant. Well, Charbel, let's finish it there. Before we do go, though, is there anything that you wanted to put forward in terms of any projects or anything that you're working on, or is it just a case of keep checking Crick Blog for?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, keep checking Crick Blog. So it's at Crick_blog on X or Twitter, as people still call it. And crickblog.net is the website. So we'll be covering a lot of the Australia-Bangladesh series and all other topics around the world. So do check it out. Appreciate it.
Brilliant. Well, thanks again for coming on, Charbel. Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you. Do share, subscribe, like, do all of those usual things. And we'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.